previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to Philadelphia. At that time, Yiddishkeit in America was basically being decimated. There were still maybe some Yidden around, from a Yidden. My father actually grew up in Philadelphia, and he shared with me many times that there was many kosher butcher shops. But unfortunately, Shmiras Shabbos was starting to go down with the older generation passing on. The newer generation wasn't keeping up. Most of the kids went to public school, Yiddish kids. They were from at home. They would go to shul on Shabbos, and then they would, unfortunately, not continue. So when the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America, he said, America is nicht anders, and we're going to make America the way it was back in the Alte Heim. There's no chiluk in this. So the joke was going around, this is what this boy is writing, was that the Frierdiker Rebbe sagt, wird aufton, was der Eibishter allein kann nicht aufton. That he's going to try to accomplish what Hashem himself is not going to be able to accomplish. Because America was considered to be the modern Medina, Eretz Echeles Yeshva, the land that eats up its inhabitants. So they said that there's no way that he's going to be successful in being able to conquer America, making sure that America is the same as before. Anyways, him and his group of his friends, they heard the house that he's staying with. There was a very famous woman that was a very big philanthropist, and she was hosting him in his house, and a lot of Chassidim were coming. And they were there, they just wanted to see the scene, the show. They were laughing, they were making litzunis, and they're watching the Rebbe, he's coming, what's he going to do already in America? So they were making a joke between each other. They're going to come and they're going to see how he's going to do what the Eibishter can do. There's a gabbai that comes out, and he sees them on the porch, they're kibitzing, they're joking, and he says, what do you want? He says, we have a question, they want to ask the Rebbe. He says, what's your question? He starts getting a paper out, he's going to write down. So they were embarrassed to say that their question was going to be what they said the question was going to be, how he's going to do what the Eibishter can do. So they had a question, more watered down question, how does the Frierdiker Rebbe feel that he's going to be able to change America at such a Medina steeped in modernkeit, how is he going to be able to change it? So he writes down their question, and he sees the house is already filled with people coming to ask for different bruchas. They're on the porch and they're schmoozing. A few minutes later, the gabbai comes and he says, "The Rebbe will der shoin zen." So they're the group of litzunim. They're going in front of everybody else. They schlep them up to the room where the Frierdiker Rebbe is there. Frierdiker Rebbe sees them. He gives the hand and he says, "Please sit down." He sits down and they all sit down. And they were shocked. They didn't know why is he doing this to them. So he said to them, most people are coming here for different reasons. One person's coming, I know why he's coming, because his daughter is not well. And he wants me to get involved, helping his daughter get better. Was kann ich tun? Ich bin nicht kein doctor. I'm not a doctor. This is not my skill. Okay, ich kann spell sein, ja, die kann spell sein. So another person is going to come, he wants to ask me if I should make a business deal. He says, make a business deal. I'm not a businessman. I don't have an ASIC in these things. This is not my thing. Kahines rabbis, everyone is asking me different questions which are not my fields. You guys are asking me questions which are my field. I'm a mechanech. This is my thing. I'm a person that teaches Torah. He says, what's your question? Your question is, how are we going to be able to make America different? He says, the Eibishter gave us Klal Yisrael 613 mitzvahs. He says, I'll be honest with you. I have to do what I can do. Can I do every mitzvah of the Torah? Not every mitzvah is shaykh for every person b'chol hadar. I have to do every mitzvah that is shaykh for me to do. He says, I want you to ask yourself, what mitzvah can you do? Even one mitzvah, like putting on tefillin. And then he asked the boys around, did he put on tefillin? And many of them didn't say they didn't put on tefillin that day, or they didn't. So he says, do you have tefillin? And one of them said he didn't. He says, okay, I'll buy you tefillin, but I want that you should put on tefillin every day. And when these boys went out, they said they understood then how he's going to change America. One mitzvah at a time. That he's going to make sure that a person is going to realize that every mitzvah that he does is making this world a better place for the Eibishter. A very interesting thing about this Lubavitcher Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, was that on the end of his life, he couldn't speak, but he was still able to write. He was writing Maimorim. They were being prepared by his son-in-law, the Rebbe, and he would take older Maimorim. They would re-prepare them. They would give them out to be learned on the different days, on the Shabbos and the Yom Tovim during those years. So for the Shabbos of Yud Shvat, which was Parshas B'Shalach of that year, Tavshin Yud, he prepared a mimer, which was going to be a continuation for a few weeks, starting from that Shabbos, which was coincide with his mother's yahrzeit, and his Baba's yahrzeit, and then later his mother's yahrzeit, which is Gimel Shvat. So he wanted that they should learn Maimarim, L'ilin Shmosam. So the mimer began with the Medrash, which it's a Medrash on the Pasuk in Shir Hashirim, where it says, Basi Ligani Achoisi Kalo. That Hashem says that I came into the garden of Achoisi, my sister, my Kalo. So the Medrash Rabbah in Shir Hashirim, it says like this, Ligan ein ksiv kan, el ligani. It doesn't say ligan, it doesn't say Hashem said I came to the garden, it says ligani to my gan, my gan, which means lignuni, to the place that I was already comfortable. In Makim Shayayik, this is the place that Hashem says that I was there mainly before Chet Tzadas, before the Averis. Then Basi Ligani by Matan Torah, Kaviyachol, the Inyanim came back the way they were in the first place. So there was Koydam Chet Tzadas and after Chet Tzadas. This is the Medrash that he went on. This mimer, Lubavitcher Rebbe took it as his tzavah, his ruchnistik tzavah tachsin. So every year there was 20 prakim of that mimer, and every year he would elaborate on another pedic of that mimer. So for 40 years you have, for each pedic, you have 2 maimarim, because you have each mimer, he took that mimer of 20, each one pedic, and he elaborated, and it was marich and mazber, each year 1 pedic from that mimer. So from Tashin Yud Aleph until Tashin Lamed, you have the first 20, and then again he started over Lamed Aleph until Nun Aleph, and then unfortunately he stopped saying maimarim. But Akapanim, the Yesod of this mimer is teaching us a Yesod Gadol in Avodas Hashem, based on a Medrash, and that is that the main desire of the Eibishter, the main reason why the Eibishter created this world, is Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyis Lo Yidir B'Tachtonim. The Eibishter desired that this world should be a place that he should come and be comfortable here. Just like a garden is a place that a person feels utmost relaxed and utmost comfortable, so Kaviyachol, the Borei Olam, he made this world in such a way that it should be not such a nice place because of the chatoim that came about. And our job is to re-bring the Shekhinah back into this world. So I'd like to just take a moment and discuss and analyze this thing from a very practical level. When we look in the Svarim, starting from Sifrei Nigla, you find what's called a dichotomy. You find stiris, contradictions in our approach of how a frum, idealistic person has to look at Inyone Olam Haza. In other words, we have physical things in our world, bayis, levush, achilas siyah, v'chulu. You have different things that a person interacts with every day. His house, his clothing, his food that he eats, his wife, etc. These are things that are very megushim. So how is a person supposed to look at it? So it says in Svarim that the derech ha-koimrim, the Rambam writes this, the derech ha-koimrim was that they believed that any connection to the world was considered to be a disruption to one's connection to the ruchnistik Eibishter. And the only reason why the Gashmis was put in the world was only there that a person should ignore it. Not that they should have any touch with it. There's the Rambam. And the fact is, the galachim, the priests of the even of the Avodah Zarah that had the monks, they had a feeling, or the Puritans, they had a feeling of certain whatever you want to call spirituality, and that was their way that they felt they would get to come closer to kedusha, to holiness. And the Rambam's approach, which is there's an expression that's zakt by Chassidim, frum vi agalach. Say about a person he's too far from, they say he's frum like a galach, he's over the top. It happens to be that today you see a lot of them are just frauds. They make themselves look holy, but they're really very only nasafa lachutz outside. But in hashkafa, in the way that we approach life, this seems to be the approach. The Rambam writes on one place that those people that do this, it's an interesting Rambam, and he writes that it seems that in Hilchos Nedarim he writes that person wants to be mazir himself and be oyser himself yayin. He seems to give a place to this, that a person should be mazir himself from yayin. In fact, there's a Gemara in Yevamis, and it speaks about the pasuk of kedoshim tiyu kadosh atzmucha v'muterlach, that a person should sanctify himself even on things that are permitted to be eaten. The Ramban in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim has a whole arichus in which he says that a person might ask, what does it mean to be halik in dvarim hamutarim? If you're going to want to tell me that it's enough that a yid should just eat kosher food, so he says, what did you gain? So Sachako, what's the difference between a yid and a guy? That a yid eats kosher food and with full pleasure, and the guy eats treifa food for full pleasure. What's the difference? So he says that if a person looks at Torah and thinks that he's just to eat kosher and you're good to go, he says he's a novel b'rishus HaTorah. He's a novel. He's a disgusting person, and he's doing it kaviyachol within the parameters of the Torah. This is a big mistake, and he's marich in this. He says it can't be that that's the pshat of Torah. Obviously, the Eibusher wants that a person should control himself. But on the other hand, we know there's a Yishalmi. It's often quoted Yishalmi. The Gemara Yishalmi in Pesach Kedushin says that a person is going to give a din on every piece of meat or any piece of gashmias that came into his possession, and he didn't eat it, and he wasn't milet. Why? It's enough what the Torah forbade for you. Why are you becoming more frum than what the Torah said? Like, the Torah month from dir zu essen, that's why you're not eating this. And the Rambam in Hilchos Deis paskins like this, which is a steer to the way he paskins in Hilchos Nedarim, where there he says a person is allowed to be mazer himself v'yayin. He says a person is not going in the right way if he's going to be mesagiv esatzmai. And right, and this is the Rashi brings us too, that a person that brings us the chipar al masher chata al nefesh. So we learn from here that what's the chata? That he was sir satzmi min hayayin. So this is Gemara in Tainus that a person is mechuyev in this. So how do we look at the subject? We seem to have two opposite ways of looking at it. The standard answer is, the general idea of the answer that would be clear to most people is that it depends on how you approach the Gashmias. If you're doing it in order to serve Hashem, so then obviously it's a good thing. So for example, if a person needs basar to be besimcha, in simcha lebasar, in simcha lebiyayin, and a yom tov, if you have a chi of simcha, or even just lefakech daitoi, l'sameach libei l'avodas Hashem, as the Gemara says, that a person who learns Torah because he ate good meat and that opened his mind and is able to learn, so then obviously in such a case, it's connected to limud Torah, it's connected to his avodas Hashem, so then for sure it's going to be a good thing for him to eat basar and yayin. But if he's a zoil basar, sevi yayin, he's just guzzling and fressing, then obviously it's not a good thing, and it's not supposed to be, it's not part of his avodas Hashem. But just want to take a moment and understand maybe on a more positive level, on the etzam ha'inyan ha'achila, because apparently, if we want to be honest with ourselves, every type of interaction that we have with Gashmias seems to be a step backwards for us. Every time that we eat, and every time that we have any type of physical connection to anything in the world, being realistic, it numbs our connection to the Eibishter. The way we feel, in a sort of say, in a Puritan way, is that the more ruchnius that we're going to be, then the more connection we're going to be able to the Eibishter, like we see on Yom Kippur, or Daimon LaMalachim. Because if you want to feel any connection to the Eibishter, you need to be ma'ana yourself in all these different things. It's very hard for a person. We just learned in Gemara Brachas. It says, Mashal la'av. He gives his kid all the money, and then he with the full stomach, mali kreisei. And then he puts him on a certain Pesach, and it's almost impossible that a person should have the Gashmis and the Ruchnis in one place. So I would like to give an understanding to the whole approach to one's hishtamshus, one's using of the physical world in the light of Torah's Hasaid, which is elaborated and explained in Chassidus, but mainly from the Baal Shem Tov and all of his Talmidim. It's not something unique only to Chassidus Chabad, although there's a lot of elaboration on this in Chabad, but all Chassidus speaks about this point. I just want to make a preface to this Torah with a little story, an anecdotal story. There was this Rebbe from Ruzhin. He was once sitting around this table, and he asked his Talmidim that there was big up misnagdim to the Rambam. Why were there such misnagdim to the Rambam? What did they have? Why did they oppose the Rambam so much? So they told him because the Rambam Amoyer Nevuchim famously was praising very much Aristotle. And he writes big praise about Aristotle, that he understood, all the Shevat Akim. There's an expression he understood all the way till Rekia Shmini, even though that Cheskel only understood the Shevat Akim, he understood even more than that. And that he writes that whatever Aristotle says is emes, he has no, and when he wants to say it's not emes, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He holds him to the highest degree. So they had a big problem with, how can the Rambam say this? So the Rushner said, what do you say? They said, we hear the question. We hear the shaila. So the Rushner says, ich sag as the Rambam is gerecht. I say that the Rambam is right. It seems like he's saying that Aristotle was greater than the Nevi'im. How could he say such a thing? It's mamash like, how could he say? So he said like this. He said a mashal. He said, there was once a person, he came into the palace of the king, and he saw all the different ministers and all the different rooms, and he started becoming a baki in all the different chambers of the king and all the different ministers that were there. Aber auf den got there vergessen, and the king he forgot about. He knew everything about the greatness of the king, but he forgot to go to the next level. He forgot to go to where he has to be, which is to the king himself. So what the Rambam, the Ruzhner was essentially telling his Talmidim is that when the Rambam was praising Aristotle, he was praising him within the realm of Chachmas HaTeva. Taka was a big buck. He was even bigger than Yecheskel, but that's not a chesaron. That's a maila, because Yecheskel forgot about all the outside stuff. He said, why do I need to be a bucky in Tava and to see a likus in Tava? I'll see a likus straight. I'll go dive into it to the Yesod Advarim. This anecdote also helps a person understand the difference between the Nigla of Torah and the Pnimius of Torah in general. The Nigla of the Torah speaks a lot about the Ratzon of the Eibishter, the what and the how. What a person has to do and how he has to do it. We're caught up a lot on the outside of on the outside, so to say, level within Kedusha, but it's a more chetzoniistic level of what Kedusha is. What's the Pnimius HaTorah? Pnimius HaTorah is the Nishmas HaDeirah. So that's the Eibusher himself. Here's you're going to the Boire Olam. Over here you're coming face to face with the Eibusher himself. It's opening up a whole new dimension. In order to understand these little dimensions, I'll give you another interesting anecdotal story. If we'll have any time left, we'll actually get to the shir. This Gemara says in Sukkot that Yenis ben Uzziel, he was so great that whenever he was sitting and learning, even if a bird that was flying in the air, he would have got burnt. So they say that there's 4 people learning this Gemara. So there's the traditional, Litvak, he's learning this Gemara, and he's looking at the Gemara and he's analyzing it. Where's the Soif coming from? Where's the Shevach? How far is the Shevach? It's only going to be like a bite. I'll kick him out of the base Madrash. If it's 15 amis or this or 15 and a half amis, where he's coming from. And so then they'll figure out, if he's chayiv or not chayiv. So, the traditional way of looking at. And then you have the chused, and he says, wow, such a heiligkeit. Such a heilige tzaddik. And then you have the apikoidus. He says, fairy tales, lehoyev nivra. And then there's the Baltaiva, the guy that's, he leptatog, he enjoys life. He says, gebrotene kachke. So you have 4 people, four people learning the same Gemara, and each one sees what he wants to see. So you can have one story in the Gemara, one story in Torah, and there's many different dimensions to it. So I just want to share with you a medrash, which there's many dimensions to this, but Kabbalah Harizal has a whole new yesod and understanding to this. And that is as follows. It says that when the Eibishter created this world, he didn't just create this world the way it is right now, but he was Boina Oilum Meisum Acharivim. First, the Eibishter created other worlds, and he destroyed them. And the Lashon of the Medrash is the Medrash Rabbah. It's in 2 places, a Medrash Rabbah Bereshis and a Medrash Ke'eles. Davar Be'ita Yafa, so it says over there also, L'chol Davar Yesh Eis, and it says, Davar Be'ita Yafa, the Eibishter Kaviyachal says, Dein Hanili, these worlds I like, Dein Lo Hanili, and these worlds I don't like, and he chose this world. So there were many throughout the generations, Pirushim, on what this Medrash meant. There are those that understood this Medrash, that it was this world. And Kaviyachal, the Eibishter made projects within this world. He built within this physical world layers. There was different kufas billions of years ago, and it was changed and was destroyed and was collected. And that's why the fossil record is able to be explained according to this Medrash. The Arizal, the Maharal before the Maharal, the Rizal, but the Maharal is a different pshat. He says that it has to do more with Klal Yisrael, that before the Eibishter Kaviyachol created a world where anybody could have become connected to the Eibishter, but by Matan Torah he chose the after Klal Yisrael. So he explains the Boina Oilam in such a way, and the Macharivim, he took away their ability to be connected to him, and only he left it to Klal Yisrael, and he has a whole bunch of chachas on this. But the Arizal has a whole different pirush on this. And this is the crux of what we're trying to get to in our understanding of Olam Hazeh. The Arizal, and I saw actually a letter from the Rebbe, he said that the Arizal, when he said this, he's paskening. He's paskening that that's the way it is. So with that, he negated all the other pirushim. And that is that it's not the pshat this physical world was created, but Kaviyachol, there was a higher world, a ruchniistic world, that the Eibishter created before this world, but that world collapsed. What does it mean that that world collapsed? It means as follows, that world, the oir of Kedusha was so great that the keli, the vessels which are normally there in order to contain the light and then be able to express them, platzed. So for an example, I'll just give an example. If a person, sometimes a person is very, very smart. They have a lot of information, but they can't speak it out. Why can't they speak out that information that they have? Because the kalim are too small in order to bring out that information. They don't have the oisius. And oisius are kalim, because in the ois you have the oir of the seichel, and then you have the oisius which bring it out both in ksav and also in dibur when a person speaks that.
You can't find the words to express it. Sometimes even an emotion can be so great you don't have the words to express it. Words and letters are really a receptacle for an idea. But if the idea is too great and it's way ahead of its time, you can't find the words to express it. So that's what a kli is, a vessel, and the light is the idea that goes in. So what happens, God's light was so great, the vessels themselves couldn't contain it when they exploded, because the light was so great. That's the idea. If somebody famous, let's say, came into this room, everybody would be dwarfed by it. So the God's light was too strong for the light to contain. Right?
So, but it's harder to understand, and we can give them examples. Like if the sunlight is out too strong, the retina of the eyes can't handle that. So a person would lay and get blind. He would get blinded by this tremendous light. There's no keli that it could accept that. So on a more spiritual realm, the iris that were in that world there was no way that it could be held and contained. So it just broke and it platzed. And where did it platz into? There's an expression that's also in Kisei Arizal which says as follows: Kol hagvoya b'yoser, yored lamata mata yoser. Whatever was higher came even lower. So when we come into this world now, which is the secondary world, deeper hidden under the layers of the physical world that we experience in front of our eyes, are high sparks of Kedusha that were remnants of the earlier world. And Arizal says that's the reason why Hashem put us in this world. That our job is to elevate and to sift out, to be mevarer, to make birur, the avodas habirurim, to refine and to take out the sparks of kedusha that got stuck under the surface over here. In fact, Ramam Panu, he says that this is what it's hinted in the Torah, because it says v'ruach alikim mirachefes. So if you work at Lord the Mirachefes, the spirit of Hashem was hovering. The word mirachefes is reish peches is in the middle, and the end and the beginning is mace. That means that there's 286 sparks that were swallowed up into this world. They're mace because there's no chayas. So, for example, if I have a word, the word is living because I took few oisius and I put them together. If the oisius break, so then the oisius are dead because I just have an aleph here, a beis here, and I don't have the tziruf. I don't have the communication of the letters. So then each one is on its own. So they're considered to be dead. So they fell into this world. When the Yidden went down to Mitzrayim, why did they go to Mitzrayim? So we spoke about the Gemara in some brachas, some psachim, that it says that the asu k'mitzula shein beidagon, it was like a trap that they took out all the kedusha from it. And we learned in the end of last week's parsha, v'gam erev rav oli mohem, erev rav, that 202 sparks of kedusha they managed to elevate out of Mitzrayim. What was left? Pei Vav. Pei Vav is the same gematria of Shem Elikim, which is the same gematria as the word Teva. Too much overload of information, but just the idea. So we're left now with these sparks. These sparks, by the way, are divided and subdivided into many, 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 many millions and billions of sparks. But just to jump to our approach, so the Halakha Baal Shem Tov writes that when we are different from all the animals, from all the world, all animals, they all desire a very similar type of food. In other words, each one according to his type. Like all cows will desire the same food. All sheep will desire the same food. You won't find the sheep desiring a different food one from the other. Their feed is all the same. Why is it that by humans, we all desire different things? We all have different things. One person likes one thing one way, one person likes one thing another way. Even if we'll all appreciate the food, we'll appreciate it for different reasons. Why is it that we each have our own individual one way? So he says that the reason is because there's sparks of Kedusha which are in the food, and those sparks of Kedusha are asking, they're beckoning to us and asking us to be mevarer them, to transform them. And each one of us has our own unique mission in this particular thing. And this applies to both food, clothing, house. In fact, he explains, it says in the Gemara that the Torah is chasal mamonim she'yisrael. The Torah is worried about the money, and it says a person also can't just be mafker his mammon. Even for holy endeavors, it's not true. It's not a good thing for a person to do. Whatever a person was given in this world was given to him exactly. There's an expression, the literal meaning of the pasuk means that Hashem pays each one according to his action, which on a literal level means that Hashem, you act good, he'll pay you back good, midah connected midah. But in a deeper level, the pshat is like this: tishalim. That means Hashem will be mashlim. Hashem will fill ish to each man kemaseo according to his mission of action that was put in this world for that mission. So just like in the army, you have different types of soldiers, and each one is given the gever, the ammunition, and the different tools that he needs in order to do his job. Whatever your job in this world is, that's what Hashem gives you. That's why there should be no sachme by a person, because if a person really realizes whatever was meant for him to have, he'll have it. Whatever's not meant to him to have, it's not part of my mission. I'm not jealous of somebody else's mission because he has a different job. I desire one food, he desires another food. So according to the Shitta of the Baal Shem Tov, and from Kabbalah, we can't just look away at food, or we can't look away at Olam Hazeh. That's our purpose in this world. The reason why we came to this world is because each one of us has a unique makeup that is only us, and only in that situation could be elevating it. How do we do that? That is by making the brachas on the food, and by recognizing that there's a power of Kedusha which is, like you said, beckoning to us, begging us that we should refine it. And the more that a person is in sync with this reality, the more he is in tune to this, then the easier it becomes. Because just like by boyer, the sifting process, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. Sometimes it takes a hard time to get that good piece of meat out of the cholent. Sometimes it's sticking right out. So sometimes these sparks are speaking to us. And I just want to conclude, the Rebbe Rashab, he says in a letter, in his first chaylik of Igris Kodesh, of his letters that were they printed, he writes an interesting thing. He says that we find that, and he's saying this 100 years ago, that the sparks of Kedusha that we have now, in other words, the types of challenges, physical challenges that we have in the world, we never experienced throughout the whole history 100 years ago. We never experienced these things. He says, how do we understand this? So he says like this. He says, use the example of a kettle. A kettle, when the water is just starting to heat up, until it gets to, I know Fahrenheit, until it gets to 190 degrees, the water is still pretty much the same. But when it gets to 200 and 212 degrees, all the things that are on the bottom, they go all the way to the top. So he says that in the earlier generations, when the water was still, they were able to fish out the top layers of those sparks of Kedusha, that you're able to reach in and get them. This generation, they're throwing up the last bottom levels of sparks of Kedusha, that they're coming up to the top. These are the greatest nisyonis and the greatest temptations. But at the same time, it says that also in Kabbalah, he says, La'ar neshamas are gigulim of the neshamas that went out of Mitzrayim. And just like they were the ones that finished the job, and they were yoytze biyad rama, like we say in this week's parsha, they came out with a strong arm. So likewise us, we have the power. Hashem gave us a power that we will be able to undo what no generation previously was able to do, to deal with these types of sparks, and we're able to do it. So the Rebbe asks, how is it that we have the koyach to do this that nobody else was able to do it? He said the answer is because the previous generations, they were very intelligent, they were very emotional, but they were missing something. And that is the idea of Kabbalah Sel. Just do it. No understanding, no heart, just do it. Our generation has this ability to just go and be unbashful and do things. So for an example, you have people, they can go up to people in the street, into all four corners of the world, and they ask them to put on tefillin. In the previous generation, the whole cheshboinus that they were making about doing such a thing, it was unheard of. Today, people are just breaking forward, and they go to the four corners of the world, and they're bringing out these last sparks into the bringing them back into the kedusha. And as soon as all this is done, it says in all the svarim that Mashiach for sure will come, because the world will be purified, and we'll see the light of Hashem clear in all of our beings. And v'ro kol basar yachtiv k'fi Hashem diber.
So I see a Rolls Royce and I want to buy the Rolls Royce, assuming that I can afford it. So I'm meant to be Navara the Kedusha in the Rolls Royce. Why do I have to go to Rolls Royce?
I want to ask if
Harry, how are you getting home?
the shop rights. Tiny in Gashim Sain in the head, but it says the lotion is
It's not far away. It's not far from me.
Achreichim.
Does it say
Mutter,
that?
mutter,
Yeah.
mutter,
The lead
Masha
was
Asr,
Rebbe
Asr.
Tzedin, yes. Das was me...
Masha Asr, Asr, Masha mutter is miyutter, Masha Asr, Asr, Masha
So
mutter is
so
mutter.
it's
Das was me dan is neem in dat
Ja.
Das me ja, darf me nicht.
so here's the in the different rebbes itself, there were different shidduchs. For example, the Ruzhner we know was a very big gvir. He was very big gvir. He lived in a big palace, and he had the ability to like you say, he was able to see the Rolls Royce and be milet. He had the wherewithal to do that. By the Chabad Rebbeim, most of them actually chose to live banius, to live specifically that they didn't want to have too much to do with Gashmias, with the exception of the Reb Marash. In fact, when people would give the Tzemach Tzedek, which was the father of the Reb Marash, gifts of gold, he would say, "Give this to my son, because he knows how to he knows how to be he knows how to this." So I think the general principle is like this: we don't look for it, but if for whatever reason Hashem made that it should come our way, so then that's a part of our avodah. We don't shy away from it. I heard an unbelievable word from a big gvir. Grady is not a chassid, but I think he hit a derher. He's a Veltz gvir. He's alive today. I think he lives in Flatbush somewhere. I heard this word in his name. He said he has everything. He has the biggest, fanciest house, and it comes with his territory. He says, but if for whatever reason Hashem would take it all away from me and I would have to sleep on a bench in a show, I would not lose sleep over it.
And you believe it? You think it's there?
It's irrelevant. The nekuda is a emisa. In other words, the moment that you're nitfas in it, then you're not higher than it. I'll give you an example. It says,
even though he has incredible wealth, didn't impact him.
I'll give you an example. It's
Right, it's easier to say it when he's...
Gemara in San-
I'm not judging it. It's still
the Gemara in Sanhedrin writes.
You asked the question exactly what I was thinking.
The Gemara in Sanhedrin writes that before a person eats, before a person's daven, it's not allowed to eat. So the Gemara has a few pirushim what it means. One of the pirushim the Gemara brings is that he's not allowed to eat kedem atfila. Person's not allowed to eat before a davening. Why? Because like bisman shekuli dam. Because before a person davens, he's like very grounded. Only after a person davens and he's more in an elevated state, then he's able to eat. So the question is, what's the chiluk between after davening and before davening? So the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, explains in the Likutei Torah in a few places, but in Parshas Pinchas is where I remember it. He says that before davening, you're lower than the food. So the food is going to pull you down. After davening, you're higher than the food. You can only change something that you're higher than it. You can't be a teacher if you don't have something that is more than what the student has. So the same thing is also with any davar gashmi. If you are a mashpia to that, so then if you're the mashpia, then you can now be mushpa from it. If you are giving to it, you're giving it its inside. In other words, like this: on the surface level, it's lower than you, but it has something in it which is higher than you.
Right.
So there's some mashpia mekabel aspect over here. The mashpia part of us has to be, I'm here to change you. But in the end, Talmidei Yosef Mekulim, for my students, I get even more than what I have for myself. Now that can elevate me to a place which is higher than me because it comes from the spark of Kedusha from before.
Speaking, the Nazir that didn't eat much, is the real Chassidim also didn't eat much.
So
They said the word, Chamoy Sonacho, with the Birurim in head, Lemaise, they were in Naim Finech. They didn't indulge.
So that's the thing, is like it all depends on how and what you're doing it for. If it's Taka L'Shem Shemayim, so then, and it's possible. The Gemara clearly says that there's three things which are Marchivim Da'at and Shalodom. And even though the Marsha says that the Marsha Grada learns that Gemara because it says in the Mishnah, you know, Talmidim Shel. So the Mishnah says Shleisha Talmidim Shel Avram, that the siman is that they're Anivim, and the simanim of the Talmidim of Bilam is that they're Navesh Rechova. So he says so the Marsha learns the Gemara over there. Marchiv that Shalom the Talmidim Shel Bilam, but.
Only recorded. Something was wrong with the stream, so I recorded it and I'll upload it.
But most people, most Mefarshim don't learn like the Marsha. They learn that the Gemara means Kapshute. That there are three things that help a person, and you see this b'chush. If a person has a lot of lachas, the Gemara, their Ambam passes like that both in Hilchos Tshuva and also in the end of Hilchos Malachim. He writes that l'nesavon neviim l'meisa Mashiach. They want sheyu penuyim. You see clearly when he said that they wanted. Why did they want Mashiach? So it's not that they wanted that they should have all the fancy things. They wanted that they should have the ability to learn Torah, that their minds should be clear. When if a person is having tzaris, or he doesn't have money, or he doesn't have a house, or he's living in a small apartment and he has 10 kids on his head, it's hard for him to learn. It's hard for him to it's not relaxing in the sense of like, okay, just let me, lie back and have a good time. It's
have your mind relaxed so that you can learn.
Exactly. So you should have peace of mind. So this is a very holy and healthy thing. It's not a stira to Avodas Hashem. Problem is that when a person makes that his whole life, and he looks at it that the Gashmias is the Zikr and the Ruchnis is the Tafel, this is the main thing and the rest is secondary.
When you look at most luxury items, how can you use them l'shem shemayim?
So again, I would say that probably most people cannot. But if the Eibishter gave it to you, again, not that you went out of your way to get it, but if the Eibishter gave it to you, that means, according to the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, then it was something that you needed.
So this generation, let's use an iPhone or our cell phone. Do I really need a cell phone? But I'm using it for Kedusha. But there's a lot of klippa that's there too. So 20% is Kedusha and 80% I'm using it to watch football, right?
So it's an interesting thing because I get a similar parable with clothing. When Rebbe had to get a glass of something, he barely wore them, but he needed to wear them. So the person, the Aptamchus, he asked him what type of glasses he wants. He says he wants the style that just went out of style. So whatever the new style is, not that one, the one that was yesterday. So it's
okay, so I'll always take the phone that's free. That's not
the idea is obviously
but even that I'm doing not because of l'shem shamayim. I'm doing it because I don't want to spend the money on it.
So like this, and the end of the day is there's.
I'm telling you if you're going down to the reason to get to l'shem shamayim, I haven't scratched
if Hashem gave it your way. He didn't bring the car dealership to you.
I'll give you an example. And again, I know this is a little bit of a far-fetched example, but it's an example. You have a whole story in halacha based on the Gemara. Normally, a person's not allowed to own treifa products like yayin nesach or stam yayin. Yayin nesach will be a problem. or chazedim, or klovim. These are things that are also for a yid to have, to own, or,
To do
unless
business.
to deal with them. But it says, what happens if he was a ger? He was a convert, and his father gave it over to him in inheritance. He gave it over to him. So it says like this: if he can split the inheritance with his brother, and he can take all the kosher things, and he leaves all the trefa things by him, then it's fine. But if not, then Allah says it's not that it's asr bahana. He's allowed to deal with it because it came to him, and he's a ger. You let him deal with that, because that's what Hashem, so to say, put in his pocket. Now, on a very revealed level of Torah level, it says we did this because if we get too strict on him, he's going to go back. So you're going to crush him, you're going to break him. So therefore, the Torah was nice to him. But from a Hasidic perspective, the reason is no. Since he came from a very low place, he has an ability to change things that even a regular Yid doesn't have ability to change. It says that a ger comes from even higher place. He was born like a Yid. And it says, in fact, in the Gemara in Psachim, that it says that the Eibush didn't put us in Galus, Elu Kadeshi Tosu Aleim Gedim. He only made it in order that we should make more Gedim come to us, be attracted to us. So when you have Galus, you have exile, and you have over here Goyim, they come Gedim. Now you're elevating them. You're bringing them up in Kedusha. There happens to be, there's another pshat, and that is that we go into Galus in order to elevate the sparks of Kedusha that are there. They're also considered to be Gedim, strangers. But that's the...
So inside, let's just look at this. So there's an animal, there's a chicken. I'm going to eat this chicken. Inside this chicken, the chicken itself is not higher than me. The spark in the chicken could be higher than me. Is that the...
100%. So in other words, like this, it's in there is hidden something holy, very, very high holiness. Just that on our surface level, we are going to be attracted to the most external element, unless we are mature enough, so to say, to realize that there's a greater tachlis and something in this that I have to uncover. So although I'm attracted on a superficial level to something superficial, but really there's something deeper in there that's calling to me and asking me, help me out, free me from here.
Get me out.
And
that's my soul calling to the chicken's soul. Those sparks want to connect, but because they can't, so the physical part connects.
And but it's not the pshat to run away from it. The pshat is to work with it.
Right. Say, okay, how do I get my neshama to express itself properly when it connects with the neshama of the chicken?
So getting back to your question again, I think it's obvious. Sometimes, for example, if Hashem, whatever it is, worked out in your life, you need to be a businessman. There's certain things that come within the realm of being a businessman. In other words, if you're trying to be in sales and your sales are in high-end products, and you're going to come with it, like this, I'm a Hasidic guy, I'm just going to drive like this little jalopy car, it's going to affect your sales. So for your avodah, that you need it, it's something which is, again, it's secondary to you, but that's what you need for your job. You need to wear the $500 suit. You need to look like a mensch, whatever it is. But it's all not you. That's not going to be the definition of who you are. The definition of who you are is the Yid davening in the morning to the Eibishter. All this was a secondary thing because that's the way the Eibishter wants me to sustain myself.